Hi, and welcome to 2.5 Multiview Sketching the L shape. All right, so we're going to start this the same way we started all the other pictorials by making a glass box. But since this is a multi-view sketch, there's going to be a front view of our glass box, which will be this rectangle right here. It's 2 cubes tall and 3 cubes wide. And then on top of that, we're going to put a top view, which is this rectangle right here. And then we'll continue making our glass box by drawing this rectangle right here. So we're going to start with the front view, which is a 3 cube by 2 cube tall rectangle. So we have to come up with a scale first. And I'm going to make it a little bit larger. 1 cube is equal to 3 grid lines. So starting in the bottom left-hand corner, I'm going to make 1, 2, 3, that's 1 cube, 4, 5, 6, that's another cube, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is going to be the glass box front view, okay? Now technically, when you're making these two lines, and they're construction lines, by the way, they're very light, you should draw them straight all the way up because we're going to use these two lines to dictate where our top view is. Not only like where it's going to be, but how wide it is. These two lines are the same width as these two lines on purpose because this width is equal to this width is equal to this width. So now we're going to draw the top view. We drew that front view rectangle. This is now where we're drawing the top view. And how deep is this top view? How far back does it go? It only goes 1 cube, so we're going to make the rectangle. It already has a width of 3 cubes or 9 grid lines, so we need to make it 1 cube or 3 grid lines. So I'll start by drawing this line here, okay? And you have to determine, am I going to make it super close to my front view? No, you want to leave yourself some space because eventually we're going to be writing some things in this space right here. We're going to be writing our dimensions. So you leave a good amount of space. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of space, but you leave some space between this is this edge, and now I'm going to draw the back edge. This is showing the depth. How far back does this go? That's where you draw this construction line here. So far we have our front view of the glass box and the top view of our glass box. Let's draw in this right view. As you can see, it's 2 cubes tall, which is the same height as our front view. All right, and when we made these two lines, we could have extended them out, and the best practice is to do that. Extend them out over here, extend them out over here. All right, and that'll tell you how tall this should be. So on the right side view, we have the height, which is over here, and we need to show how deep this goes. And it's actually the same depth that we made on the top view. And there is a way to show with construction lines that it's the same depth, but you can just count up the cubes. It's 1 cube deep. So again, you make your line somewhere where you leave enough space between the front and the right side view because we're going to be writing dimensions in there eventually. And you make it 3 cubes wide or 1 cube deep. Now this is our glass box, and I know it doesn't look like a glass box, but it serves the same function that our glass box did before. It's an outline of the overall height, width, and depth. Now we just need to draw what's inside the glass box. So I'm going to start on the front view, and I'm going to draw these two lines. But I'm going to extend my construction lines to the top view. So that'll look like this. I know it's going to be located here. So here's that part of my L shape, and I'm going to extend it to the top view like that. And then I can even, when I make this part of the L shape, I can extend it to the right side view. And I'm just going to be starting here. So there's the L shape on the front view, But you might as well just, while your ruler's in that position, because I know you're using your ruler, it's mandatory for this, all right? You just extend that line, continue going to your right side view. And everything is nice and lined up. And the reason it's lined up and it's necessary for it to line it up is because eventually we're going to draw dimensions. So this is like 1 cube, okay? I don't need to, this is a sneak peek to, this is a different lesson, but I'm just showing you the reason why it's important. I don't need to draw that dimension over here again. So, because it's in line. So if you just draw it once, that's enough, and it makes your drawing more efficient and clearer, because if the view is lined up using your construction lines going across, then you don't need to clutter up. If you have like a separate view over here that's over here off in space, that's ridiculous, all right? Because you'd have to put so many more dimensions. You want to only put one dimension where necessary, and then you won't have to make this other dimension because it's unnecessary. You can see just by looking, since it's all nice and lined up, that it's the same dimension. So we're done writing our construction lines, and we could just use object lines for the front view. And by the way, if you're using a pen, which you should be, because I know you're working in your engineering notebook, you can use light pen marks for the construction lines. You don't have to go super hard on the construction lines, and then put more pressure when you're doing your object lines. And it is possible to get two different tones of line, even if you're using a pen. I know it's easier with pencil. Obviously, it's easier with pencil. But since you're working in your engineering notebook, it's the best practice is to use a pen so that somebody else can't erase away your work. And we're just doing this. Okay. So, and then at this point, we're done. So I'll just do a couple side notes just so we know how to interpret this. I think the front view is pretty self-explanatory. And it should be that we picked the front view because it shows the best contour of the shape. But if you were just looking at this top view and you didn't know what the other views looked like, you might not know that it's supposed to be an L shape. But so I'll just explain that this line corresponds to this line, okay? This line corresponds to this line down here. We're viewing it from the top. And this line here is the corner. And you could use this view to help you figure out what that line is supposed to be represented. And then obviously, this is actually the front of the object. And this line is the back of the object. And if we were looking at the right side view, which square, this is a good way to see if you know how to look at this diagram. Which square is closer to you? Is square A closer to you, or is square B closer to you? Which one do you think, if you're looking at this drawing, which one's closer to you? Square B. This one corresponds with this one, and this one corresponds with this one up here. So I'll do the line thing again because I thought that was cool on the top view. This line corresponds with this one. This line corresponds with this one. And then this one up here goes all the way back. See how it's going back? This one up here corresponds with this line right here. Okay. Then this is the front of the object. So it's actually this line and this line. It jumps back. And then this is this. And this is this. So that's all you can see. You could only see this face and this face in this view because they're the ones that are facing towards the right. So hopefully that makes it a little bit easier to interpret these multi-view drawings. At this point, like I said, we're done. I do not want to see tonal shading for any of these. And technically, you don't even need to have this view right there. So your finished products should look something like this, okay? The reason we don't use tonal shading for these is because they're all supposed to look two-dimensional. The pictorials we've been doing are supposed to look like a three-dimensional object, and to help them look like a three-dimensional object, we've been using tonal shading, okay? But multi-view drawings are different. They're not pictorials. They're not supposed to look three-dimensional. They're actually supposed to be functional. And by putting tonal shade, if I just shaded this in for no reason, it makes it look messy for no reason, okay? The purpose of this is to be functional, so that, and the function is, you're gonna eventually put in dimensions on these. So the function is to tell you what exactly are the dimensions of these objects. And by putting tonal shading in unnecessarily, you're actually doing a disservice, because you're supposed to make these look as clean and efficient as possible. The fewer the lines, the better, because you want it to look very clean. So by shading them in, you're doing the opposite of that, and I'm going to take off points. All right, so no, you don't have to do tonal shading for this. I know some people haven't been doing tonal shading, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, I get it, Mr. Nangle, you like me to shade things in. I'll shade these in. No. Then I take off points for that here. All right, so make sure you only do what the rubric tells you to do. You have to read the instructions and read the rubric. And I'm just giving you a little explanation as to why there's no tonal shading for this. Also, it's very important to use a ruler. You have to use a ruler for this one, and I want to see the construction lines. Some people have been making the construction lines after they make their objects, and that's not what I want to see. I'm not teaching you how to draw tetra shapes. You can probably draw the tetra shapes on your own with all these different pictorials and these multi-view ones without having to use the construction lines or the glass box method. I know that you could probably do that. I'm not teaching you how to draw the Tetris shapes. I'm teaching you how to do these drawing methods. The method is the glass box method. I picked easy things to draw on purpose so that you get better and learn the glass box method. Once you know that method, it'll make it easier to draw more complicated shapes in the future. So by not doing the construction lines, or by just drawing the Tetris shapes first and then drawing the construction lines after, and thinking that I can't tell the difference, even though I can, it's clear. I know what to look for. I've been doing this for a while. I know exactly what you're doing, okay? Please do the construction lines in the glass box method first, and then build your sketches and do it in that order, and draw the Tetris shapes after you've built the construction lines in the glass box. That's all I have to say about that. Have a great day.